Hey guys, Palageek here, and as you can see, my Engwe M20's fork is very not attached. So how did I get into this situation? Well, you see, a while back, anytime I'd go to take a hard stop or go over a really hard bump, the forks would go up, but then would not come back down. That's a problem. Also, when they would come back down, it would make a horrible metal clanking sound. I figured instead of ignoring this, it was probably about time to actually take the forks apart and see just what's going on in there. So we're going to be tearing into the Engwe M20's front suspension fork and see exactly what all makes it work and how to disassemble it in the most efficient way possible. So on this fork we basically have two halves. We've got the left side and the right side. The left side is really basic. It's just a spring in a cup. Literally that's what it is. So here's the bottom of the fork. Spring goes in the bottom and that just puts pressure on the bottom of the stanchion here. That's it. It's literally just a spring. Obviously there's grease and bushings, but that's basically the general concept. So on the right side of the fork, we've basically just got this little oil damper that rides inside. It's adjustable at the top, and it just kind of looks like one of those things that holds up the door on an SUV. Because both sides contain different things, they come off slightly differently. On the left side, there's a big 6mm bolt that fishes down from the top, and then just screws into a captive nut at the bottom of the fork. So that's great, that's simple, it's just one single 6mm bolt. The problem is, it's all the way at the bottom of the stanchion. So considering how long this stanchion is, how exactly do you get to it? Well, with a really, really long extension. I believe this in total length is about 18 inches for the extension, and it just barely reaches. And then at the end, I basically just got a 6mm hex driver on there. I know from past experience that it's an absolute pain to actually get this to line up and sit on there. So I also 3D printed this little bushing that clips onto my extension and centers it inside of that stanchion. Once everything's set up properly, you basically just kind of fish the whole assembly down there and hope it lines up, and you just unscrew it until you have a 6mm bolt. On the other side of the fork, there's also a 6mm bolt sticking out the bottom of this one. And you would think that you have to disassemble that first, but you don't. If you do, it's just going to sit there and spin freely. What you have to do first is that you take out that 2mm screw on top. Underneath there's going to be some ball bearings and springs that you should probably take out so you don't lose. And in the middle, there's going to be this 10mm nut that you're going to have to unscrew. And then finally, there's a big old 1-inch nut on the top here that just totally unscrews, leaving this entire cap piece out. Once everything from the top is free, you'll have to very carefully lift up the bike and fish this entire damper assembly, which is going to be attached to the lower part of the fork, out of this stanchion. So once you have the entire bottom part of the fork off, it'll reveal a section here that you can fit a 12mm wrench around to prevent it from turning, and then you can take a 6mm Allen key or hex wrench, put it on the bottom of here, and take out that 6mm bolt. And then the forks are completely apart. So the actual oil damper itself is just this little black section here. It looks like they have what is essentially a very long coupling nut to make it fit all the way from the bottom to the top. It is very obviously an emulsion shock because it goes. It is absolutely not the best kind of shock, but it works. And it's definitely better than one without a damper at all. So after taking this apart, I immediately knew what was making that loud, alarming clanging noise. So this big long bolt effectively holds the bottom parts of the shock to the top parts of the shock, so you don't lose it when you go off a jump or raise the front end. There's normally a bump stop on here, so this metal bolt head doesn't just come crashing down into the metal stanchion. However, the rubber bump stop that Engwe used is approximately the same size as the hole for the bolt itself to go through, which is not exactly great. So the problem was, this started getting squished so much that it just came through. So what was happening is this bolt head was the only thing that was holding this without any sort of bump stop, and anytime it would get to the end of the travel, it would just clank metal to metal, and it would make a terrible sound. So like many things in life, my fix is to 3D print a new one. So I use TPU, which is just a very stiff rubber, and I made a much larger replacement. This is much thicker than the stock one. Not a whole lot, it's about twice as thick as the stock one. So it's probably going to add about 1 centimeter of extra preload, but I'm just going to try it and see what happens. On a lot of higher quality forks, for the bushings, you'll see some exotic materials, maybe ceramic coated things, Teflon coated things. On here, the bushings are just plain old plastic inserts. So how exactly am I going to fix the shock sticking? Am I going to try to 3D print some new bushings? Well, I have tried that in the past, and it's a lot of work. But no, I'm just going to clean everything and re-grease the ever-loving out of it and pray to God it helps. I don't have the damper in yet, but that is a million times smoother. I think we're golden here. Quick note, actually before you stick this cap into the top of the stanchion tube, make sure you tighten that 10mm nut first, otherwise the whole thing in there spins. Yeah, you might need to actually hold this. Yeah, because that 10mm nut actually threads into the damper shaft, not this cap like I thought, so definitely put that in first. Well, not only is it not sticking, but it's not making that horrible metal clanging sound anymore. So I think we're all in the clear. So another thing people hate is the seat angle on this thing. And I think part of it is due to the shock length and the shock strength on the back side of here. By default, it is a 750 inch-pound shock, and it's 190mm eye to eye. I replaced that with one that's only 350 pounds per inch, and it's 165mm eye to eye. So not only is it shorter, but it's going to be a lot softer too. So this different shock not only actually compresses under my weight, but it puts the seat at kind of an angle of attack that's a little more reasonable. I've been riding with this shock for a couple days now, and it absorbs bumps way better than the stock one. I would highly recommend it. The 750 inch-pounds is just way too much. Alrighty, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you like this kind of overview of what I did to the bike this time around. This is kind of a little less scripted than it usually is, but these are a lot quicker to make, and I just wanted to get something out there. So if you like this kind of video, please click subscribe. And if you think I'm an idiot for something I did with these shocks, because it's my first time trying something like that, be sure to let me know in the comments, because I'm sure there's someone screaming at everything I did the whole way through.